I'm gonna ask your permission if I can share something else that I hope is gonna bless somebody there. If I can flip one more script from you all. Is it okay with y'all if I speak to you for another couple of moments? One of the tough things about doing this type of prayer is that we come into church, we love to worship, and we get the word. And then sometimes in moments like these where people feel free, we learn about some of the heavy things that so many people are carrying that we don't even know about. And each and every time I hear of that, I'm reminded of the comprehensiveness of sin. Now, I'm going to be very careful when I say that. I don't mean that you guys are doing the wrong things. One of the things that stresses me out is that I feel like a lot of us have a very malformed, this incomplete idea of what sin is. We hear the word sin and we think about all of the things that we are doing wrong. But when we look at what sin is in the Bible, it's actually something far greater and larger than that. Y'all know Psalm 51, some of you heard about it, where David says that I was born in sin and shaped in iniquity. That doesn't make sense. How are you born into doing the wrong things? It seems as though sin is actually more about the air that we breathe, the environment that we're born into, right? So if we are born into a situation where, I'm gonna share some things that don't sound like that hopeful right now, but I'm gonna get somewhere, hopefully, where you can understand why this is important. There's a whole lot that we can tell about the type of life that someone will experience based upon the zip code that they are born in. The 5-digit zip code that you were born in will tell us a whole lot about the type of life that you're about to experience. Before we are even born, based upon the two people who met and procreated to make us, there's a whole lot of things that limit the choices that we will experience. And it traps us into a little bit of a cage right here. That cage that we are trapped in is what the Bible refers to as sin. Some of us have been trapped into this idea of sin being the wrong things that we do. And so we worry about staying away from certain websites and staying away from certain words and certain vices and things. And yeah, we should do all that. We should move through the world wisely. But if that's all the sin that we recognize, then we will always remain enslaved to sin. Sin is the ability to take your agency away from you. When you do not have choices, you are living in sin. Living in sin does not mean that you have done anything wrong. It means that the world around you has constricted your liberty. And that's why when God shows up on the scene, it is always to set people free from slavery. The Hebrew people were not in slavery in Egypt because they did the wrong thing. They were in slavery in Egypt because people decided to do them wrong. They found themselves in sin not because of their own choices, but because of someone else's evil. Can I let you know that there is a difference between sin and evil? Sin is the impact and evil is the intent. There are evil people who are putting you in sin. The evil intent of these people has impacted your life in a way that prevents you from experiencing the fullness that God has called you to. I need you to understand this so that as we are dealing with the effects of sin, you can let go of some of that guilt. Being in sin doesn't mean that you are not loved by God. The fact that you are loved by God is why God sends a liberator to free you from that sin. And so what salvation is going to look like for you is recognizing the cage that you were born into that restricts your movement and your ability to choose. Your salvation is going to look like you being able to choose for the first time, for you being able to say no to the cage that you were born into and yes to Jesus. Salvation is the ability to say yes where somebody else has said no. It's important to me that somebody leaves here with a new understanding of that, because there's so much guilt that we carry because nobody told us what the fullness of sin is. And I need to let you know that even if you have not come to a decision of salvation, that each and every person in this room was saved on the same day 2,000 years ago. Now, when you come into knowledge of that salvation might be different for you. I'll paint a picture for you. I don't know if y'all noticed, but I'm black. I'm black in the United States of America. My ancestors were enslaved in this land. On January 1st of 1863, there was something called the Emancipation Proclamation that went into effect. And what that did is it freed all of the enslaved people in the Confederate States of America at the time. The problem with that is that everybody didn't know that they were free. The law said that they were free, but they didn't know that they were free. They'd already been freed, but they didn't know that they were free. On June 19th of 1865, the word of that liberation reached the very last group of enslaved people in a town called Galveston, Texas. And we celebrate that as a holiday called Juneteenth right now, because the salvation, the liberation, the freedom that had already been won for these people finally came to them. And sometimes you can't live as though you're free until you hear that you are free. And I need you all to understand that your salvation has already been secured. And it's time for us to start living like it. Whatever we have incurred because of the sin that we were born into is not a character flaw on your part. God is not judging you because of the sin that was placed upon you. You can walk into your freedom. You can walk into your salvation because it's already been secured. The moment that Jesus rose from the grave with all power in his hand, he came with the keys of hell that have locked you in a cage, and you have the power to walk free because of what Jesus has already done. The work has already been done. We're going to keep on praying so that you can live into that which has already been secured for you. I hope that somebody leaves here with a flipped script. Somebody who came in here in chains might leave in liberation. Somebody who came in here with their chin touching their chest might leave with their head held high. I hope that your head is held so high that when it rains, you're in danger of drowning. I want you to understand the type of freedom that exists in front of you because of the love of God made clear in his son Jesus Christ, who even death couldn't contain. And if death can't stop you, what we got to be scared of? I hope your script gets flipped when you leave this place. I hope you understand what salvation looks like. I hope we stop being scared about the wrong type of sin. I hope you look at the jails trying to hold you back and say, not today. I've already been freed. I've already been saved. It's already done. In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus. In the name of Jesus.